Hello and welcome to Explore Larned, brought to you by the Larned Area Chamber of Commerce. Every few weeks we'll be touring different attractions throughout the community. Come join us as we explore Larned. Did you know that Larned is home to a National Historic Site? This week I headed out to Fort Larned to visit with Ellen, an 8-year ranger out at the fort. First, we talked about exactly what Fort Larned is.
Fort Larned is a historic Army fort, built right here on the Santa Fe Trail. So that big overlying theme here is the Santa Fe Trail. And these soldiers, they were mustered out and had to stay here on the plains out in the middle of nowhere. And their one responsibility, I mean the biggest responsibility, was to guard the U.S. government wagons on the Santa Fe Trail. This fort was established in 1859, but picture this. It was dugouts, adobes, sod buildings. There wasn't much wood around to actually use for building, but there probably would have been a few smaller wood buildings, you know. It was pretty rough. And this year's education program is actually incorporating more about those earthly dwellings because it's an important part. The stone buildings are the resource that we're protecting and preserving, but they weren't actually built until about 7-8 years later, 1866 through 1868.
While visiting with Ellen, I also got to discuss the many events that the fort puts on throughout the year.
Well, we do a lot of interpretation here. We have 4 or 5 pretty good size events throughout the year. We're a very small staff. In fact, our interpretive staff is just 3 park rangers. Now during the summer, we'll get some help. Our biggest event is our Memorial Day weekend. It's 3 days, and we do a lot of living history. We have volunteers that come in. Sometimes upwards of 70-75 volunteers will help us with the Memorial Day weekend. I think the events are very important, but we're also an educational institution, so we get many schools throughout central Kansas, some as far away as south of Wichita. Just 2 weeks ago, we had St. Francis that's up north, 3 hours one way on the bus for those students to come here. So I take a lot of pride in our educational program that we've built up here.
Major event out at the fort is the annual Candlelight Tour.
The Candlelight Tour is the second Saturday in October, and we have volunteers coming from all over, including 2 or 3 other states. And this is why we aren't able to put it on for more than one evening, because we wouldn't be able to get those same volunteers. It's very difficult. So that one evening is it, and it is hard to get tickets. 2 Mondays before the event is when people can call and get reservations. Oftentimes they find that the phone lines are busy and they have to keep trying, and it's very, very frustrating. And so all I can say is, you know, we do the best we can. Our local community who supports us very well, they've all caught on, so they make sure they get their reservations in, and it is one of our most memorable events.
Next, Ellen discussed with us volunteer opportunities out at the fort, and they sound almost as fun as going out to tour the fort yourself.
To volunteer during the warmer months, you could do interpretation, learn the history of Fort Larned, dress in period clothing, and talk to visitors. They love that. We do third-person interpretation here, which means that you don't have to act like some, you know, character out of the 1800s. You can be yourself, but you're also showing them what somebody of that time would look like.
Just as I'm an intern here at the Larned Area Chamber of Commerce, it was a pleasure to talk with Ethan Grennan, an intern out at Fort Larned. Ethan's hosting an event this Saturday that you definitely don't want to miss out on.
This Saturday I'll be doing a bat program to educate the public about bats and everything I've learned so far about bats, and just to raise general awareness. There's a lot of misinformation and misconception about bats and their importance to humans, and a lot of it is there's a lot of fear that's just misinformation people need to be corrected on. And so I'm just going to give a presentation about everything I've learned about bats and what people can do to help with bat conservancy and help build habitat for them and stuff.
So don't forget to head out to Fort Larned from 8:30 to 4:30, 7 days a week, with the gate closing at 5 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode of Explore Larned. Big thanks to Ranger Ellen and Ethan for coming on the show. We'll see you next time.